My story. How I learned English. My name is Layla, and I want to tell you a story about how learning English changed my life. I live in a small village, surrounded by hills and farms. Life here is peaceful, but sometimes I dream of a bigger world, a world full of stories, music, and people I can't yet understand. That world feels so close, yet so far. You see, most of the books in our library are in English. I would hold them, look at the pictures, and wonder, what do these words mean? One day I decided I wouldn't just wonder anymore. I was going to learn. I went to my teacher, Miss Sarah, and said, I want to learn English, but I don't know how to start. She smiled and said, Layla, start with small things. Learn a few words every day. Practice simple sentences. And most importantly, don't give up. That evening, I took an old notebook and wrote my first sentence. My name is Layla. It was just 3 words, but it felt like a huge step. Every morning, I learned 5 new words. I wrote them down and repeated them to myself. Words like sun, friend, happy, and home. One day, I borrowed a short storybook from the library. Its title was A Little Bird's Journey. I tried reading the first page, but I didn't understand much. I used my dictionary to check every word. It was hard, but I didn't stop. Every new word was like a tiny treasure. A few months later, Miss Sarah told us about a competition. The challenge was to give a short speech in English. The winner would receive a scholarship to study in the city. I wanted to join, but I was nervous. What if I made mistakes? What if people laughed at me? Miss Sarah said, Layla, mistakes are part of learning. Speak with confidence, and people will listen. So I practiced every day. I stood in front of the mirror and spoke. I asked my younger brother to listen to me, even though he teased me sometimes. When the day of the competition came, I was shaking. My heart was beating so fast. But I remembered Miss Sarah's words. Speak with confidence. I walked to the stage, took a deep breath, and said, Hello, everyone. My name is Layla, and today I will tell you why learning English is important. I spoke slowly, trying my best to pronounce the words correctly. I talked about how English connects people, helps us understand the world, and gives us new opportunities. When I finished, the audience clapped. I couldn't believe it. I had done it. After the competition, I didn't stop learning. My second goal was to understand English conversations. Miss Sarah told me about a radio station that played English programs. Every evening, I listened to it. At first, it felt like they were speaking too fast. I couldn't catch most of the words, but I kept listening. One day, while listening, I heard the word dream. I smiled. It was one of the first words I had learned. Slowly, I started understanding full sentences. As my English improved, I began helping my friends. They wanted to learn too, but didn't know where to start. I told them, let's practice together. I'll teach you what I know. Every weekend, we gathered under the big tree in the village. I taught them words, we practiced sentences, and sometimes we acted out scenes from the books I was reading. It was fun, and we all learned together. One day, I received a letter from the city. It was from the head of a language school. They had heard about my journey and wanted to offer me a scholarship to study English there. When I showed the letter to my family, they were so proud. My mother said, "Layla, this is just the beginning. You can do anything you dream of." Moving to the city was exciting, but also scary. Everything was new faces, new places, and so much English everywhere. At first, I felt lost, but I reminded myself, I can do this. I joined the language school and met students from different villages and even other countries. We all had one thing in common. We wanted to learn. My teachers in the city were kind and patient. They gave me books, showed me videos, and helped me improve my speaking. I even joined a group where we talked about our dreams in English. Now I can speak English confidently. I read books, write short stories, and even help others learn. My dream is to become a teacher, like Miss Sarah, and inspire others to believe in themselves. Learning English was not easy, but it taught me something important. When you work hard and believe in yourself, anything is possible. And so, my journey continues. Every day I learn something new, and every day I take one step closer to my dreams. As the weeks passed in the city, my confidence grew. I loved how English was everywhere, in the signs, on the buses, and in people's conversations. It felt like I was living inside the books I used to dream about. One day, our teacher at the language school, Mr. David, gave us an assignment. Write an essay about how learning English has changed your life, he said. I thought about all the little moments, writing my first word, standing on that stage during the competition, and teaching my friends under the big tree. I titled my essay, "The Language of Hope." One of the best parts of being in the city was meeting people from different places. In our class, there was a girl named Maria from Brazil and a boy named Ahmed from Egypt. They both spoke English better than me, but they told me they had started just like I did. Maria once said, "Layla, don't compare yourself to others. Learning a language is like climbing a mountain. We all take different paths, but we'll reach the top if we keep going." Her words stayed with me. When I returned to my village for the holidays, I noticed something had changed. My friends and neighbors were more curious about English. Some of the children came to me and asked, "Layla, can you teach us too?" We started meeting every evening by the big tree. I shared the simple exercises I had learned in the city. We practiced speaking, writing, and even singing songs in English. One little girl, Hannah, reminded me of myself. She was shy and hesitant, but I could see the same spark in her eyes, the same curiosity I had when I first held an English book. Back in the city, our school announced a partnership with an international organization. They were looking for students to join a project that connected learners from around the world. I applied, even though I was nervous. To my surprise, I was chosen. The project involved speaking to other students through video calls. At first, I was terrified. What if I couldn't understand their accents? What if I made mistakes? But during my first call, I met Emma from Canada. She spoke slowly and kindly, and we talked about our favorite foods, our families, and our dreams. When the call ended, I felt proud. I had just had a real conversation in English with someone from the other side of the world. Months later, something incredible happened. The organization hosting the project invited me to attend a global conference for young learners in London. When I told my family, they were overjoyed. My mother hugged me tightly and said, "You've worked so hard, Layla. This is your reward." Traveling to another country felt like a dream. On the plane, I looked out of the window and thought about how far I had come. From writing, "My name is Layla," in a small notebook to flying to London because of English. It felt unreal. The conference was full of students like me, each with their own story. I met people from Japan, Germany, India, and so many other countries. We shared our struggles and successes, and I realized that learning a language isn't just about words, it's about connecting hearts. On the last day, I gave a short speech about my journey. As I stood on the stage, I remembered the first time I spoke English in front of an audience. This time, I wasn't nervous. I was excited. I ended my speech with these words: "Learning English gave me more than a language. It gave me confidence, hope, and friends from around the world. If I can do it, anyone can." When I returned to my village, I brought back not just stories, but also a promise. I promised myself that I would keep teaching others, just like Miss Sarah and Mr. David had taught me. Now, our small group under the big tree has grown. Parents join us too, eager to learn. The little girl, Hannah, can now write full sentences in English, and she says she wants to be a teacher like me. My journey isn't over. I still have much to learn and many dreams to chase. But every time I feel unsure, I remind myself of where I started. With one word, one step, and one dream. English has become more than a language for me. It's a bridge to a bigger world, a tool to inspire others, and a reminder that hope and hard work can take us anywhere. Life in the village began to transform slowly. The small group I started under the tree grew into something bigger. One evening, Miss Sarah visited me and said, "Layla, the work you're doing here is incredible. Have you ever thought about opening a real learning center?" Her words lit a spark in me. A learning center? I'd never thought that far, but the idea wouldn't leave my mind. The next day, I spoke to the village elders. I shared my dream of creating a space where everyone, children, teenagers, and even adults, could come to learn English and other skills. To my surprise, they were supportive. One elder said, "Layla, we've seen how much you've achieved. If anyone can do this, it's you." Building the center. The Learning Center wasn't built overnight. At first, we used an old room in the village hall. It was small, with only a few chairs and a blackboard, but it was enough. I asked some of my classmates from the city to donate old books and materials. When they heard about the project, they didn't just send books. They sent stationery, posters, and even a few second-hand computers. Word spread quickly. Soon the room was filled with students of all ages. I taught them the basics. how to introduce themselves, how to ask questions, and how to describe their daily lives. Of course, it wasn't always easy. Some of the older students struggled more than the younger ones. A farmer named Mike came to me one evening and said, "Layla, I'm too old to learn. My brain doesn't work like it used to." I smiled and replied, "Mike, uncle, it's never too late to learn. Let's take it one step at a time." He laughed, and we started with simple sentences like, "I am Mike." Over time, his confidence grew, and he even started helping the younger kids. The center became more than just a place to learn English. It became a space for connection, laughter, and dreams. An unexpected visitor. One afternoon, while I was teaching, a car pulled up outside the center. This was unusual because cars rarely came to our village. A man stepped out, dressed in a suit. He introduced himself as Mr. Kareem, a representative from a national education organization. He had heard about the work we were doing and wanted to see it for himself. As I showed him around, he said, "Layla, what you've built here is remarkable. We want to support you." The organization offered us funding to expand the center. With their help, we built a bigger building with proper classrooms, a library, and even a small computer lab. With the new resources, we started offering more than just English lessons. We taught basic computer skills, public speaking, and even creative writing. Students from nearby villages began to join, and we hired a few more teachers. One day, I invited Miss Sarah to visit the new center. When she saw what we had built, tears filled her eyes. She said, "Layla, this is more than I ever dreamed for you. You've not only learned, you've become a teacher, a leader, and an inspiration." A year later, something incredible happened. A journalist wrote an article about our learning center, calling it "A Beacon of Hope in the Hills." The story spread, and soon we were receiving messages from people around the world. One day, I received an invitation to speak at an international education conference in Malaysia. They wanted me to share how our small village had created such a big impact. At the conference, I stood in front of hundreds of people and shared our story. I talked about how a single word, dream, had changed my life, and how education can transform communities. When I returned, I brought new ideas and resources with me. We started online lessons for students who couldn't travel to the center. We also launched a program to train other villagers to become teachers, so the work could continue even when I wasn't there. Today, our learning center is thriving. Children who once struggled to write their names can now write essays in English. Parents who once doubted themselves can now help their children with homework. As for me, I'm still learning. I've started taking online courses to improve my teaching skills, and I've even begun writing my own stories in English. One day, I hope to write a book about our journey, a story that will inspire others to believe in the power of education and the strength of small beginnings. My journey isn't over, and neither is this story. With each new student, each new lesson, and each new dream, We're building a brighter future, one step at a time. As the years passed, the Learning Center became a cornerstone of our village, not just for English, but for hope, connection, and change. But my dream still wasn't fully realized. I wanted to see more. More students reaching their full potential, more opportunities for my community, and the chance to bring our story to a wider audience. One day, while browsing through the newspaper, I saw an advertisement for a global education competition. It was an opportunity for schools and learning centers around the world to showcase their innovative approaches to teaching. The winner would receive a grant to further develop their programs. I didn't hesitate. I gathered the best stories from our students, along with a plan for expanding our curriculum. We submitted our application, hopeful but unsure. Weeks passed, and life continued as usual. The center was busy, and I focused on teaching and managing the growing number of students. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but wonder, what if we won? Then, one bright afternoon, I received an email. The subject line read, "Congratulations, you've been selected for the final round." I couldn't believe it. We had made it to the top finalists. The excitement was overwhelming. Miss Sarah called me as soon as she heard the news. "Layla, this is huge. You've shown the world what's possible with hard work, determination, and the power of education." The competition was fierce. We had to present our learning center and its impact on the community in front of a panel of judges from various countries. I knew I had to be ready. I spent countless hours preparing for my presentation, creating slides, gathering testimonials from students, and practicing my speech. I also knew that this was a chance for me to not only represent the center, but also to represent the voices of the people in my village, those who had worked with me from the very beginning. When the day of the final presentation arrived, I was nervous, but I reminded myself that I had come this far. I walked into the conference hall, greeted by faces from all over the world, and stood in front of the judges. I began, "Good morning. My name is Layla, and I'm from a small village in the hills. Our learning center started with a dream to bring education, hope, and opportunity to our community. But more than just learning English, our mission is to empower people to believe in themselves and their potential." I showed the judges videos of our students, photos of our humble beginnings, and the transformation we had achieved. I spoke about the challenges we had faced, limited resources, doubts, and skepticism, and how we had overcome them through determination and collaboration. When I finished, I felt proud. I had shared our story from the heart. I wasn't just speaking for myself, I was speaking for all of us, the students, the teachers, the villagers who had believed in this dream. The judges took some time to deliberate. It felt like an eternity. Then, the host stood up and announced, "The winner of this year's Global Education Award is the Learning Center of Layla from the hills of Fazilistan." The room erupted in applause. I couldn't believe it. We had won. The grant we received was significant. It allowed us to further expand the learning center, hire more teachers, and even build a proper library. But more than that, it opened doors to even greater opportunities. We began offering online courses for students outside our region, allowing them to connect with our teachers and learn from anywhere in the world. We also started collaborating with other educational organizations to provide workshops and training for local teachers. The impact was spreading, and our story was being shared with communities far beyond our village. Now, as I sit in my office at the center, looking out the window at the familiar hills, I reflect on how far we've come. There are days when I think back to when I first wrote, "My name is Layla," a simple sentence, but the beginning of something bigger. I've learned that education is more than just learning facts or speaking a language. It's about building bridges, creating opportunities, and believing that no dream is too small to chase. I look at my students, young and old, and I see the same spark I had when I started. I see the future in their eyes, and I know that the journey isn't over. In the future, I want to continue expanding our programs. There are still so many students to reach, so many hearts to inspire. I dream of creating an online platform where anyone, anywhere, can access free English courses and other learning resources. I also want to mentor young teachers and help them create their own learning centers, just as Miss Sarah did for me. And of course, I'll always remember my roots. The village that believed in me and the people who helped me turn my dream into reality. Because the greatest lesson I've learned is this: education is not just a path to knowledge, it's a path to endless possibilities. And as long as I can help others learn, I will keep walking that path. As the Learning Center expanded, so did my vision. I began to realize that what we were doing wasn't just about teaching a language or providing education. It was about creating a movement to empower communities, bridge gaps, and prove that anyone, regardless of their background, could rise above their circumstances. One evening, while sitting with Maria from Brazil and Ahmed from Egypt, who had become dear friends and mentors, I shared an idea. What if we could connect students from all over the world to learn from each other, share their stories, and support one another? Maria smiled. That's an amazing idea, Layla. You've already created something so special. Now it's time to take it to the next level. Together with Maria, Ahmed, and other friends I had met through online courses and projects, we began to build a platform that would connect students from different countries. It wasn't easy. We had to find volunteers, design the platform, and secure funds to get it started. But just like before, we took it step by step. The idea was simple: create a space where students could practice English, share their cultures, and collaborate on projects. We called it Global Learning Connect. The platform would allow students to have live conversations, share videos, and work on projects together, no matter where they were. There were many obstacles: technical issues with the platform, lack of internet access in some areas, and the need for more teachers were just a few of the challenges we faced. Sometimes it felt like we were moving too quickly, and the weight of the responsibility threatened to overwhelm me. But every time I felt discouraged, I remembered how far we had come. I reminded myself that this was the beginning of something bigger than me, a chance to change lives around the world. One day, I received an email from a foundation in the United States offering to sponsor the development of the platform. They had heard about the work we were doing and believed in our vision. With their help, we were able to bring Global Learning Connect to life. The first global class was a huge success. Students from different continents logged in to practice English, share their stories, and learn about each other's cultures. One student from India, Priya, shared how her family had never had access to quality education before. Another student from Kenya, David, showed us how he used English to read books and improve his community. As I watched the interactions, I realized just how powerful language could be. It wasn't just about grammar or vocabulary, it was about connecting people, exchanging ideas, and building friendships. While the global project was exciting, I didn't forget about my roots. I still spent time at the Learning Center in the village, teaching and guiding new students. In fact, the global platform had inspired more students from our village to learn. Parents who had never spoken English before started joining the online classes. One evening, Mike Uncle walked in with his grandchildren, who were all eager to start learning. He looked at me and said, "Layla, you've shown us that it's never too late to learn. Now, we all want to be part of this world you've created." His words warmed my heart. They were a reminder of why I started this journey, because education is the key to unlocking a world of possibilities, no matter where you come from. As more students joined Global Learning Connect, the platform grew beyond what I had ever imagined. We were receiving applications from schools, community centers, and even refugee camps. The platform became a lifeline for many students who lacked access to education due to various challenges, including geographical isolation and economic difficulties. We created programs that taught not just language, but also skills like problem solving, leadership, and digital literacy. We launched a mentorship program where older students could guide younger ones, and soon, graduates of the program were coming back to teach and share their knowledge. As I sit back and look at all that has been achieved, I realize that this is only the beginning. There are still millions of students around the world who need the opportunities we now offer, and I feel that it's my responsibility to continue. One of my long-term dreams is to open more learning centers in rural areas and offer courses in other languages. I also want to establish a scholarship fund for students who wish to study abroad and experience education in different cultures. But most importantly, I want to continue connecting people from my village to the farthest corners of the world through the power of language. I've learned that education is not just about acquiring knowledge. It's about building communities, inspiring hope, and creating a future where anyone, no matter where they come from, can achieve their dreams. The journey is far from over, and as long as there are students eager to learn, there will be a place for them in this ever-growing world of possibilities. Years passed, and Global Learning Connect continued to grow, touching lives in ways I had never imagined. I traveled to different countries, meeting students and teachers who had benefited from our platform, sharing the stories of the students from our village, and learning from others. The world felt smaller and closer, united by the common thread of education. One day, I found myself sitting in a quiet cafe, reflecting on everything that had happened. From that first simple lesson under the tree to the global community we had built together, it was incredible to think about how far we had come. But then, a thought hit me. While the platform was thriving, I realized that the most important part of this journey had been the relationships we had built, the bonds we created through learning, through sharing our hopes and dreams, were what mattered the most. I remembered a conversation I had with Mike Uncle a few years ago. He had said, "Layla, you've shown us that dreams can come true. But more than that, you've taught us that the journey is just as important as the destination." And he was right. The journey had shaped us. It had made us stronger, more connected, and more willing to help one another. As I walked through the halls of the Learning Center one last time before heading to a new project, I noticed something beautiful. The younger generation of students, who had grown up with access to education and the opportunity to learn, were now teaching the younger children. I watched as they guided a new group of eager learners, just as I once had. It was a full circle. The next generation was now passing on the torch. They were carrying the dream forward, ensuring that it would never fade away. I smiled, knowing that this wasn't the end. It was just another beginning. The day finally came when I was able to step away from the daily operations of Global Learning Connect. I handed over the reins to the passionate team of teachers and volunteers who had been with me from the start. It wasn't easy to leave something so close to my heart, but I knew it was time for others to lead and for me to pursue new dreams. I found a quiet place to write my book, a book that shared the story of how a simple village learning center turned into a global movement. It was my way of leaving a piece of the journey for others to find, and hopefully be inspired to start their own. Sitting by my window one evening, watching the sun set over the hills of my village, I realized that the greatest gift we can give to others is the belief that they can achieve anything. Education at its core isn't just about knowledge. It's about unlocking potential, creating opportunities, and giving people the tools to shape their own futures. My journey had come full circle, from a small village to the world, from one dream to many. And as I closed my eyes that night, I felt a deep sense of peace. I had done what I set out to do. I had built a foundation for others to grow, to learn, and to dream bigger than they ever thought possible.